Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging meeting. Today is Wednesday, February 19th at 3 p.m. We'll call the meeting to order. And Madam Chair, you do have a quorum, so I'll hand it off to you.
We do. Thank you, everyone, for being in person and online. We'll just go through the room quickly for introductions. We'll start over there with Melissa.
Melissa Martz with the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging.
So would you help? It's the little face silhouette with the sound coming out. There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Wanda Wood.
Connie Ryan with Journey Care Coordinating.
Phil Stafford with Independent Home Living.
Kent Matthews, member of the community, board member of A Place Like Home.
Carolyn Kasdan.
Paula Levy, Never Alone Consulting, A Place Like Home Adult Day Program, and board chair.
And Jody Barker, director of the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging. And then Jared, would you mind calling members that are online?
I'll be happy to. Let's start with Aaron.
I'm Erin Marizella. I'm Colorado Springs. I'm on the Colorado Commission on Aging. I'm the vice chair of the Colorado Center for Aging. I'm the membership chair for the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging, and I'm a consultant for aging communities. I run an organization called Healthspan Business Partners. Nice to meet everybody.
Alrighty, Penny. And Penny, you're muted.
There we go. Penny Everest, Executive Director of Park County Senior Coalition. And our mission is to keep seniors in their home as best able.
Alrighty, Dayton.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dayton Romero. I am with OATS, Older Adult Technology Services from AARP, and been on the commission for a couple of years now, so glad to be here.
And Steve.
Hello, everyone. Steve Schleicher, El Paso County Clerk and Recorder. See everyone.
And then we do have other members, looks like either from public or from our Regional Advisory Council, but those are the members of the Commission on Aging.
Thank you, Jared.
All right. Second item on is approval of the agenda as presented. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Ryan, I am to approve.
Is there a second?
Second, Everest.
Thank you, Penny. All in favor of the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Next are the minutes from the January 15th meeting. We need a motion to approve those minutes as written. Do I have a motion?
Ryan, I motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Connie.
Phil Stafford, I second.
Great. All in favor of the minutes approved as written?
Aye.
Say
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Ayes have it again. Motion carries unanimously. All right. Next is item number 4, comments and presentation.
Jared, received any public comment requests?
So we did not, anyone who's online who's not a member of the commission who would like to provide public comment, use the raise hand function, just know. But we did not receive any advance requests for public comment, and we did not receive any written public comment that we would have distributed to the commission members in advance. I see no hands going up online, so we can move forward.
Action item number 5, and that will be to appoint a at-large member and over to Aaron.
Hi, everybody. So, membership chair for the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging, and I'm have worked previously with Kent Matthews when I was the executive director of innovations in aging, and just in my role here for the past couple of years, I'm really excited that Kent has chosen to offer some of his time to serve with us on the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging because he has been serving seniors in Southern Colorado for many years. He's on the Senior Resource Council as under the Voices of Grief Center membership. I'm not entirely sure what that is because I haven't worked closely with that group, but with the Voices of Grief Center group at the Senior Resource Council. But the Senior Resource Council is also another really good tool for people in Southern Colorado who are serving aging and just as we're all growing older. So everyone should have received an application to join the commission as an at-large member. And I'd like to open for discussion if anybody has any questions or anything that they would like to share.
There couldn't be a better person to join our commission, and he fits the over 60 category. Can you have anything to offer up?
Well, my fitting the over 60 category, I'm not sure if I'm happy about that or not, but it's good to be here. And I look forward to finding ways to fit my knowledge and my expertise into the needs that the commission is looking at.
Great.
Perfect. We're ready to plug you in, Tons. So if there are no other comments online or in person, then I'd like to go ahead and make a mission that we vote to approve Kent as an at-large board member on the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging.
Is there a motion to make Kent a member of our commission on aging?
Oh, many apologies. I thought those were the words that I had put.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see him.
Yeah,
So
no,
Aaron,
it's
Aaron is
okay.
making Aaron is making the motion, so you just need to ask for
Oh,
a second.
is there a
Go through the
second?
vote.
This is Steve. I second.
Okay, the Steve second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Kent, welcome to the Commission on Aging.
Thank you.
All right. Next, item 6, information items. We'll start, Aaron, with the membership committee. You're back on.
I would like to bring together a team to look at the municipalities together across our region that do not have an appointee to our commission. I've been talking with Melissa and Martha about this over email, and we've met several times kind of to build a strategy for how we're going to fill those seats and how we're going to connect with the different leadership councils across the region to make sure that that the different city councils and that we serve value having a voice on our commission. So I'm working on a strategic plan for what we can do for the rest of 2025, kind of a tour of city council meetings perhaps, or meeting with the board of at the county level as well, just to make sure that those bodies understand that we're here and that we'd like to have somebody appointed from their region, and so that we can get really the voice of lots of people who we're serving in the work that we're doing here. Do we have our most recent updated membership list available online?
Aaron, it looks like he's.
Oh, yes,
Jared's
here it
pulling that
is.
up.
Cool. Can you kind of scroll through that? Can you scroll through that for me, Jared? Yeah, look at all these open member seats that we have. you know, we have representation from El Paso County and the city of Colorado Springs, but nowhere else across the Tri-County region. So I really want to, this group, as I'm looking at the names, I think everybody is in Pikes Peak, is in Colorado Springs or El Paso County. Am I wrong about that?
Penny Everest is in Park
Yeah.
County.
Thank you.
Okay, so Penny, you're in Park County. Okay.
Yes.
So, you know, Penny, I would love to talk to you. Maybe we can kind of chat offline and see what we can do to get some more people from where you're at as well. I really want to fill these seats by the end of 2025, and this is my main goal for the rest of the year.
Definitely be happy to.
And I
And I
mean-
am working on a couple of recruits.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I mean, we've got our new member here, Kent. He said he was ready to get working. That's what I remember. He said he's never go. Teasing you, Kent, but I'm also going to email you. So thank you guys. I think that it's possible. It's just going to take some, I think, time on the ground having conversations one-on-one. So does anybody have any questions about membership or any thoughts or ideas about the strategic planning?
Yeah, at our last meeting, I had said I would reach out to Woodland Park Senior Center and the Aspen Mine Center in Cripple Creek to see if we could just get on their lunch meeting presentation. They usually have guests that talk during their senior lunch, and I have not heard back from either group, so I will reach out again, but I think that would be a way to let people know what the commission is up to, and then possibly have a little recruitment talk at the end of our presentation to see if there's anybody in the audience or anybody within the organization leadership that might be interested in being a part.
I think that sounds great. And I'm working on a slide deck that we could take just across, you know, to different groups that we're speaking with, that everybody has kind of the same message and everybody understands the process.
That's great.
Steve, you have a question?
Really question to comment. So Aaron, if you're needing some help, many of my retired election judges reside in many of these communities. And, you know, I would be more than happy to assist because a lot of these folks just really have no idea what we do. But a lot of the judges that we hire each and every year to work elections actually reside in many of these communities.
That is wonderful. I think that there are a lot of people who are looking for ways to serve right now and don't know how to get connected because they're not familiar with the structure of organizations like ours. So maybe what I'll do actually is I'll make like a slide deck presentation that we can give to the municipality leadership, but also make just maybe a, you know, one pager where we could send out and educate our friends and our colleagues in regions where we think, you know, where we need some membership and we need some leadership. And then the process, where the process gets a little bit sticky is that we have so many citizens at large. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we could appoint citizens at large all day, every day. Well, not to say, you know, I don't mean it quite like that, but the process for nominating citizens at large falls mainly on our shoulders on the commission. And to fill these open member seats, we need to find somebody who's interested, and then we need for the leadership in these municipalities to nominate them and to appoint them. And so it's a little bit more of a process, but I think it takes two sides of the coin. So Steve, like you said, finding the people who are interested, but then also connecting them to their leadership in their regions so that they can get that process moving. So I'll do both of those things, and I'll have that for you guys in the next couple weeks.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. Any other comments about membership or recruitment? No. Okay. Next item is B, Policy Committee. And Penny Whitney had sent an email because she was not able to be here with some bullet points from the December 19th Colorado Center for Aging and the PP meeting, okay. So yeah, so I have those bullet points that I can just read from her email. She's
Colorado Commission on Aging
yeah.
priorities. Okay, great.
Is that,
Thank you.
yeah, AAA funding discussion. There was a AAA funding discussion, continuing concern about the lack of stability of AAA funding to meet the growing needs, the need for sustainable and innovative funding joint ventures, including possible public-private partnerships to meet the needs of diverse regions. One size does not fit all. The bureaucratic challenges impacting local AAA service providers and service delivery. And then the 2025 Colorado Center for Aging priorities and working committees. First one is age-friendly communities. The second one is mental health access for older Coloradans. The third is workforce opportunities for older Coloradans. And Penny, just to make a note, Penny is a member of all three committees and will keep the COA apprised of all activities. She said to keep watch on the reauthorization of the Older Americans Act. Senate passed as of the December meeting and was in the House. Legislative activity and watch for the completion for review of the multi-sector plan on aging. So those were her notes from the policy committee.
And again, excuse me for interrupting, but that's the Colorado Commission on Aging for sure.
Okay.
So a little different than the policy committee.
Okay.
So although there's overlaps with people making sure that they're all kind of being active on an advocacy perspective, but we still have the Colorado Center for Aging that Steve and Phil have offered to attend and listen in on, but that is something that's somewhat recent. So I don't know if Steve was able to attend the most recent CCA. They meet every other Monday. And then Steve also has signed up to attend the PPACG Legislative Committee. So those are the reminders. Amy Mitchell used to attend those, and now we have Steve attending, and then Phil attending the CCA, Colorado Center for Aging one too. So if any Steve or Phil or Jody have comments on any of that.
So, Madam Chair, this is Jody. So, Steve, I can't remember if you were able to be on either one of those, but I'm happy to jump in with Amy Mitchell. Her staying on the Park County Board of Commissioners, and with the departure of a longtime Park County Commissioner, her role has changed from being a member of the the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging member, and now she is a member of the PPACG Board of Directors. So a little bit of context for the commission members here and online. And so with Amy's move, she is still attending, of course, the legislative subcommittee of PPACG, but is no longer in a place to be able to report out. So Jared and I attend a legislative subcommittee as part of our role here at PPACG. And because she was also regularly attending the Colorado Center for Aging meetings, those are held weekly during the legislative season. I have been sitting in on those the last couple to keep track. And so with your okay, I'll go ahead and provide a little bit of update there. And so the Colorado Center for Aging used to be called the Colorado Senior Lobby. They renamed and reformatted themselves a few years ago, and but all in all, they still continue to track bills during the legislative season, and really anything that may have some effect on the older adults of Colorado. And so I would encourage you, if you are able, to join those calls. Anyone can listen in to the calls, just can't vote unless you're a paid member of the organization. So those meetings are public. You can go to their website, Colorado Center for Aging, and that is coloradocenterforaging.org. To find out more about the organization. But they have quite a few folks on the board who have very deep legislative backgrounds, and really it's just fascinating to listen to the leadership of this organization and how they process these bills. So I would encourage you to. I am not going to read the current bill tracker that they're using. But it looks like probably around 30 different bills that they're tracking right now. And so those weekly meetings, they provide updates on the bills. They provide discussion around whether they should monitor, support, or not support, as the case might be. And so they also will provide feedback on potential amendments to bills. And so some of those that they're watching that kind of coincide with our legislative subcommittee here at PPACG include several bills around senior housing and homestead exemption acts. And so these are several. I'll give you the numbers here. You can look these up, but these are 3 or 4 that are specifically crossing over with the PPACG legislative subcommittee. And also for context, the PPACG legislative subcommittee are members of the board of directors who want to focus specifically on legislative issues and provide feedback to our state lobbying group that we contract with, who help with this information as well and help lead those lobbying efforts. But House Bill 25-1156, Senate Bill 25-013, House Bill 25-1111, and Senate Bill 25-136. All of these are related to senior housing and are currently being supported by both the PPACG Legislative Subcommittee as well as the Colorado Center for Aging. I want to give you another website that is the actual tracking tool that the Colorado Center for Aging uses, and you can see their notes, you can see their position, and that is Colorado Capital Watch. So that's app.coloradocapitalwatch.com. You can also find that link on the advocacy portion of the Colorado Center for Aging website. There's just a lot going on right now. Separate but also timely is just an update from that Colorado Commission on Aging report provided by Penny Whitney. The reauthorization of the Older Americans Act did not pass at the end of the year before the new Congress was seated, and so right now we do not have that reauthorization in place. We're currently working under the same continuing resolution at the federal level for our federal dollars and mandates that expires March 14th. And so we are watching that very closely, as you might imagine. Approximately half of the Area Agency on Aging funds do come from our Federal Older Americans Act portion. And so it's a crucial part of what we do. Both at the state and federal levels, we are anticipating cuts. Our state budget, as you are probably well aware, is in a deep deficit. That number has has moved from $1 billion, that's $1 billion down to 600,000. But right now, the most recent updates I've been hearing are hovering at a deficit of approximately $900 million. With that in place, we're just not in a place where we can go and say we need more funds. The reality is that we need more funds to support our older adults through the Older Coloradans Act and ultimately the Older Americans Act. But we have continued to hear from legislators as well as our lobbyists that any bill coming before the State House right now through legislative efforts that might have a fiscal note, whether through tax relief or actual direct funding, are being turned down. And so we're just in a place where we just can't ask for more. However, our messaging does not stop in making sure that our legislators are aware of the crucial need that we provide in the community and in our regions. And so just a couple weeks ago, I was up at the Capitol with the most recent Legislative Caucus on Aging. That was February 11th, that Tuesday morning, and we heard from several services across the state, as well as a couple of our legislators who host the Legislative Caucus on Aging. That is something that you can go to in person, or you can log into their Zoom and watch remotely. And so if you are interested in that, you don't already have the calendar or the access, please let myself or Melissa know. We'll make sure that you get access to that. You can also find that on the Colorado Center for Aging website. They are the primary hosts along with the legislators. And so we'd encourage you to attend and listen in. And when given the opportunity, if we do, just like at this most recent one, Aaron was there as well, being able to ask questions of either the presenters or the legislators who may be in attendance. So just a lot going on around the concerns around funding right now, both at the state and federal level. Without a federal budget, the best we can hope for is flat funding. Right now, we are realistically beginning to look at our budgets and trim based on what the state can actually fund without a confirmed budget. The state can request spending authority up to 75% of the average of the previous 3 years federal funding. And so we're going to be working really hard over the next few months, including our contracted providers, to review those. The hope, and everything seems very hopeful these days in the way that we think about our planning, but we are beginning this planning process with the anticipation that either through another continuing resolution or a budget at the federal level, that we can then make right our federal budget portions, and we can do that through contract amendments and that kind of thing internally, and bring effectively right size our providers and our own budgets once those budgets are sorted out. So a lot going on in that area. We don't know because our Older Americans Act is mandated out of the Federal Department of Health and Human Services. We don't know where things stand today or in the near future as it relates to some of the political climate and changes at the federal level happening every single day. So our goal, until told otherwise, is to continue doing the good work that we do, both internally out to our client base here with our local programs and our internal programs, and also providing that continued support to our contracted providers, which right now we are in contract with about 35 agencies across the 3 counties. And so continuing just to do a lot of good work there. So I kind of joke that I have to be kind of the Donnie Downer sometimes in conversations, but unfortunately that's the reality of where we are right now. I wanted to go ahead, if I may, Madam Chair, and just move right into the 6D and talk about the Council of Governments board items. We, like I
Jody,
said, yeah.
Could I interrupt just for a second?
Yeah. Did I say something?
Yeah, and I'm just curious if anyone has any comments or thoughts based on what you've brought up or what you've said. So
Yes.
I just
Just
wanted
reading
to
along.
take a little moment to let some of that stuff sink in, if that's okay. And just if anyone has any comments or questions for Jody. And we do have Steve online who raised his hand.
Yes, Steve.
Hey, so Jody, just share with me. Of course, I'm very aware of a number of these bills and feel that there should be some possible amendments, especially regarding the senior homestead exemption. As the former assessor, I was very proactive, in this. The other thing is also making it permanent, because what a lot of seniors don't know is this is actually approved each and every year by the legislature, and the funding is up in the air. And sadly, as the former county assessor, I was the one telling the seniors that there's no funding coming down from the state. So Jody, I am really glad that we are supporting these bills. But just to understand is, if I propose some amendments, do I send it to you or to Melissa?
Yeah, from a procedural, and I'm going to ask Jared to kind of fill in for him as well. But from a procedural standpoint, first of all, our PPACG Legislative Committee subcommittee is a public meeting. However, it is where I would put this is asking for the opportunity to share information at the next meeting, which will be, is that this coming
Monday morning?
Yeah, this coming
Yep.
Monday morning at 8:30. You can log in or you can walk in. From a procedural standpoint, it's really up to the chair and co-chair to give you that opportunity. But that's what I would do, is I would ask for the opportunity to share from your background and your recommendations on that. And then kind of go from there. So PPACG does have a lobbying group that can file those support or amend positions, and we can go from there. Jared, did you want to add to that from a procedural standpoint?
I really don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just echo everything that you said. I will say typically, so as Jody mentioned, it is a committee of the board, and typically the board members can chime in. And so I would say, Steve, I mean, they're going to recognize who you are just based on your title and name. And so they might call on you to provide some support at that point.
Jared, I don't know if that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, it is what it is, Steve. So
Yeah. Thanks, gents.
Yeah, you're welcome. We'd certainly invite you to join that 8:30 meeting, and it is virtual. Staff is here, but generally we don't have the subcommittee meetings or members here in the office. But you're welcome to log in and raise your hand as appropriate. So
Jody, I
you'd be
got it on my
recognized.
calendar already. So thank you, sir.
Okay, fantastic.
And then
Okay. Yes.
Repeat the part. Oh, and Erin has her hand raised now.
Yes, Aaron.
So Steve, are you asking about how you can engage at the state level with some of the conversations around legislation for older adults?
Yeah, Aaron, absolutely, because for the last 10 years, I've been pushing to change up the senior homestead exemption, and also making it portable. And unfortunately, I struck out over time. In addition, as far as also changing the constitutional amendment to make it permanent, where it's funded automatically. So I'm really glad to see the legislature is now sitting there saying, you know what, this is a big thing for our seniors, for allowing them to age in place. But to simply answer your question, Aaron, is absolutely. I just didn't want to bypass this board or do anything inappropriate as far as offering up amendments that have been discussed in all my community meetings that I've had over the last 10 years and talking to seniors about this and the changes that they're asking for.
So I think I've heard in this meeting, even today, a little bit, I've heard some questions about overlap of levers at the state where we can have impact as citizens and as commissioners. And I am on, so the Colorado Center for Aging, which is the former senior lobby, which Jody was just talking about, and the Colorado Commission on Aging. And there are different paths to impact that those two organizations have. And I think maybe having a conversation, maybe at this next meeting, I'll talk to Paula and Melissa about what you both think about this. But I think maybe a visualization of who's doing what and what's the role of each organization independently. The Colorado Center for Aging, I think, is a really impactful place for citizens to understand what's happening and to really get in front of legislators, because that group is active in the advocacy days at the Capitol. There's actually an event tomorrow at the Capitol in collaboration with the Commission on Aging as well. And my work with the Colorado Center for Aging is where I've been introduced to legislators face to face. And that's where you really have the power to offer your voice changes and raise your hand in meetings. If you're a member of the Colorado Center on Aging, it's not a very expensive membership. I think it's $50 a year for an individual. But if you're a member, you can really give voice to those changes. So yeah, I think that's a really good question. And as we are bringing new commissioners on here in the Pikes Peak region as well, maybe we can just have a conversation kind of broadly about what everybody is doing from their seat in their home, from their seat in their jobs, from their seat on this commission, and where we see the greatest impact. Because I think that's a really good question. And it's a fair point that it's something we've been working on for a long time, something a lot of people have been working on for a long time. And so let's find the best way to sort of funnel our voices all together for more impact.
Aaron, that is
Yeah.
awesome. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Aaron. And to echo that, I would offer that for anyone here in the room and online. There are multiple ways to get engaged because the perspectives are different. The PPACG Board of Directors are looking at it from the specific regional and PPACG priorities, where the Colorado Center for Aging is really looking at for a much, much broader scope across the entire state, as well as anything, really anything that may touch on aging, as minor or major as it might be. So if that's something that you're interested in participating in, you can Google all of this, but we'd welcome you to join us, and a lot of this stuff is public. So you're welcome to engage in that as well. So
two comments I have.
Go ahead.
First, I want to just kind of piggyback on the things that have been brought up about, commissioners being able to be more vocal about issues that they care about. And I think that, the original intent of the commission, the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging, was to be able to be a voice, to pass information up to the PPACG Board of Directors from the perspective of the people who sit on the Commission on Aging. And, do the commissioners here, with a majority voice, feel strongly, about a piece of legislation or advocacy work. And our group is a long way from having that kind of level of engagement. But just please keep thinking about it, because that is why when the Commission on Aging, Pikes Peak Commission on Aging, did do its kind of reorg, it came up with the principles of engagement document to talk about how could commissioners talk about maybe some hot topics that maybe not everybody's going to have the same, opinion about it. But maybe everybody does have the same opinion about it. And it is interesting to think about how we might organize the meetings to be able to have a deeper conversation, for example, around the Homestead Exemption Act. And one of the things Dayton worked really hard on when he was chair was wanting to come up with a list of where do we get our information. And so if we were to have deep dives into particular topics of interest that the legislature is looking at, where do we get the information that we're looking at and talking about? So I'll put that out there to remind folks, just be thinking, because again, it takes a lot to speak with a unified voice and to share that information up to the PPACG board. But I think that's, a goal that this entity wanted to work towards achieving. In the meantime, if you have things and want to speak on your own with your own voice, by all means, jump in and do those pieces where you can, be a paid member with the Colorado Center on Aging and vote and other things. So please, take advantage of what you need to do, in this current legislative season. And then also, I learned this morning that there's some advocacy groups that are out there who are speaking on behalf of subjects that matter to them. And they have over 400 people signed up to testify. And I know that for me personally, when we talk about wanting to get older adults lined up to be able to go testify and go with Jody, sometimes I think, well, is it really that important? Because we have some strong lobbyists that are doing some pretty good work. And so sometimes I think, well, does it really matter? If we get some people signed up to go speaking and, so excited when we have 2 or 3 people that are going to go speak out. So this morning, when I learned that there are over 400 people for one particular topic that are literally signed up to speak, to speak out on something that matters to them, I thought, well, maybe we need to have 400 people to, and great. I'm thrilled for CCA and all the work that the Colorado Center on Aging is doing. I'm, grateful for the lobbyists that we have through CCA and the PPACG. But then I thought, wow, somebody's got over 400 citizens that are signed up. And imagine if we had 400 older adults that were signed up to get in front of somebody and say something about that Homestead Exemption Act. But anyway, I just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah. Thank you, Melissa.
How important it is for
What
testimonies.
advocacy group? What advocacy group is that, Melissa?
You know what? I'm not gonna. I'll share it with you privately.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not specifically for an older.
Nope, it's
older adult
definitely
issue.
not for older adults, unfortunately. Nope.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we had that conversation. I think Jody was a part of this when we were at the Capitol last week because there's a budget line item from the state budget. I can't remember how much money it was. I think it was 350 million. But for law enforcement and security across the state. And someone brought up the question, like, why does the state value that and they don't value $350 million for older adults? Not with, no shade, but just the fact is that we did approve that budget for one issue and not for something else. So I think it's a good question to think about how we message and how we connect with citizens in a way that has people show up and give their dollars to it.
Oh, thank you, Aaron. Yeah, so last little bits. Just wanted to share with the members that we at PPACG have now contracted with a federal lobbyist. The lobbying group that we've talked about is our state level lobbyist, but we now have a federal lobbyist. Jared was in DC last week, had the opportunity to speak with several legislators, staff members, our own Commissioner Holly Williams, Commissioner Holly Williams will be headed to DC, I believe, here in the next couple of days as part of one of her outreach, speaking about legislative concerns, and we've put together some information for her to carry with her. And then I'll be in DC at the first week of April as part of National Aging Policy Briefing event. And we're already coordinating across our AAA network to make visits there at the Hill with our local legislators. So a lot going on in that arena these days. And so, Madam Chair, that's what I have for now, and pass it back to you.
Great.
And I'm open for questions or catch me after.
Questions right now for Jody? Comments? No, Melissa, I appreciate you bringing up the principles of engagement, which are always on the bottom of our agenda every month. And I know we had several new commissioners go through orientation, I believe, was it last week with Melissa and Phil? I know went through. Connie, did you get an orientation? That's something new. I didn't get one either, but that's something new that we started doing. Kent, you'll be invited to one. And if Connie, you want to attend that when Phil gets his orientation. But these principles of engagement are something that we as a commission came up with a couple of years back, and not bad to review. And Jared, would you mind scrolling up to them? We came up with them when we were having our board retreat that Pat Urban facilitated for us. And so we decided to put it on every agenda, although we really don't recognize or acknowledge it. But I really appreciate Melissa bringing it up, and maybe we can make it a habit of at least reviewing it before meetings or in during the meetings or after the meetings. But we worked hard on them, and they just sit at the bottom of the agenda now. So I think we should look at them frequently. So, all right, next that's my chair report that Melissa helped me come up with last month. Next, presentations, which I don't believe we have any presentation today. Next is item 8, working sessions. The first thing that I'd like to share, and Penny Whitney shared an email about the Aging in Place Summit. Melissa, do you want to talk about that? Aging in Place Summit, which is tomorrow from 9 to 1 virtually.
Correct. And so this is, you guys have gotten a couple of emails about this. This is the kind of collaborative work between the Colorado Commission on Aging, kind of the State Unit on Aging, to have some kind of regular meetings to talk about strategic efforts across the state. And so this is the Aging in Place Summit, and it's actually being facilitated by a marketing organization, Polco. Are they marketers?
It is the organization that it's actually a survey organization that put on the CASOA for our 4-year plan. So we contract with them as a state every 4 years to put out the survey of older adults, and it's what we use as part of the information that we feed into our 4-year strategic planning process. So Michelle is going to be moderating that discussion. It's also sponsored by the Colorado Commission on Aging and the C4A, which is the Colorado Association of Area Agencies on Aging.
And I call it the State Unit on Aging, but that's different. So when someone talked about, let's do a deep dive into the Colorado Center on Aging, the Colorado Commission on Aging, and then again, recognizing that the C4A, the Colorado Association for Area Agencies on Aging, is different than the State Unit on Aging. And it's really, I think, good that CCOA and the C4A group has been coming together so much lately to do these things. And so, yeah, if people are able to join virtually tomorrow, off and on from 9 to 1, but we'll also give an update, whether that'll be Penny or Aaron, who sit on the CCOA, that might do a report out on how this goes tomorrow. Should be interesting. I think that's it.
Okay, you did send an email asking folks to let us know what work group they wanted to affiliate with. And several people responded, but there were a few that did not.
And actually, I think I've heard from almost
You
everybody.
did, okay.
Mhm,
Just
yep.
wanted to make sure.
Yep.
All right, then we got all of that taken care of then. And community outreach, it looks like the Golden Bridge Network out of Teller County is doing something on the 26th. Or are
We'll have a booth. The Area Agency on Aging will have a booth there. It's a Saturday. And so if anyone wants to come and spend time with me at that booth, you're welcome to.
Where is it?
I'm not sure where it's at. I don't know what building they're having it
Okay.
in. So, you're welcome to come up and hang out for a little bit in Teller County.
Will you also have a booth at the Senior Expo on April 10th at the Antlers? Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And Saturday, we're over at the events center, the Colorado Springs Events Center off of Palmer Park and Academy. If anybody wants to stop by for that.
What event is that?
That's like a senior expo.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the Boomer Expo.
Okay.
So we'll
Okay.
twist on the traditional senior expo. We'll see. It's only the second one.
Okay.
So
And so Penny did send an email about the age-friendly convening, which is going to be held on March 13th. We can forward this email to everyone. It was going to be at the Penrose House Conference Center, the Milton E. Proby room from 2 to 4. It's a Thursday. And it is re-engaging local leaders and stakeholders to address evolving needs of our aging population. Colorado is one of the 3 fastest aging states in the U.S., and in El Paso County, the 65 plus age segment is the second fastest growing demographic, just behind millennials ages 20 to 24. So it's going to provide an opportunity to learn more about the age-friendly program and its focus areas, to discuss how your organization is already contributing to this work, and to help shape the future of age-friendly priorities and leadership. We do have to RSVP to Penny by March the 3rd. So we'll just forward this email to everyone.
And I did already RSVP
Good.
her. So.
Okay. Then you don't have to. Did Phil do too? Awesome. Maybe we can just have our own table. We can just take over a table there. That's great. All right. Discussion items.
I just wanted to ask, speaking of outreach things, I know that Wanda had
Oh, yes.
expressed an interest in heading down to the Fountain Valley Senior Center, and I just wondered if you had a chance to do that and if you wanted to comment on how that went.
I did visit the senior center in Fountain on Valentine's Day and took the members some sweet treats. They loved them. I had a chance to meet with Mark Bowers. Spent some good time with him. He explained the programs they have there and all of the different things that the seniors have. But they put me on their newsletter. I did tell them that I would be back. It was such a delight. They were so sweet. They wanted me to stay. I had my mom with me, so I took my mom with me. I was trying to get her involved in the senior center. She thinks that she's not a senior. She's 73 years old. So she says, I'm not like those old people. So, but she enjoyed her time there too. So it's such a warm experience. They were excited to see me and asked a lot of questions about here. So I told them I would love to come back and hear some of their concerns and some of the things that are maybe challenging for them. And they were very receptive to that. So it was really, really good experience. It was really fun. So
That's awesome. Thank you for doing that. We need to do more of that. Yeah. That's great. I could take my mom, but she probably wouldn't go with me. I couldn't even get her to the car. All right. Any member announcements people would like to share? Connie, welcome back in person. I understand your baby's a year old. You walking and talking and
Yes, he's the terrorizing everybody now. I do have a question though on our agenda. We have the work group planning. Were we going to regroup on that piece about those work groups?
we were. Um,
Section number
I
8.
did skip
section
over
B.
that. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Uh,
After hearing everything kind of on the line, I think it's kind of important that we maybe regroup on these work
Yeah.
groups and
yeah,
that would just be, I think there's a lot of more research and outreach, like we're just saying,
absolutely.
that could be beneficial to all those work groups.
Absolutely. And we have so many new members to contribute. So Melissa, what are your thoughts on how we're going to regroup with our new members picking their focus?
So I guess I just, I would love to just kind of open it up to hear what people think in terms of how it could go forward. We do have people who responded and signed up. So I think I have everybody's names in different groups. We have a couple of people who really are excited about 2 or 3 of the work groups. And I think that's lovely. But I also think that people don't have to spread themselves into 3 different groups, although I know I would do exactly the same thing. So, it's great. I'm just curious again, how this commission wants to move forward with these groups and what they want to do. Because there's, again, some opportunity. For example, if, the Housing and Transportation Subcommittee, finds out that there's the homestead exemption bill going on, and that committee wants to dig in a little bit more. And that committee potentially is the one that brings information and resources about the Homestead Exemption Act to the Commission on Aging at a meeting in the near future to present on it. Is that, a possible idea for what the committees could be doing? The Social Engagement, Committee has a lot of potential to be doing interesting things with the collaboration with all of the different senior centers and the different groups that meet and do things on behalf of, older adults and promoting social engagement. So, what does that look like? Is that just, a quarterly update from, those groups on what they're doing? They are able to, share things that they would like to see happen, that can further foster social engagement. I'm just kind of curious what folks on the committee think and how you guys might want to kind of play around with, taking a more active role in these particular topic areas. I know from a digital access side of things, there was Dayton, Phil, and Aaron who were interested in being on that committee. In the past, that had been really focused on just in Park County and getting computers set up to do telehealth appointments in libraries in rural areas, and they did a great job with that, and it's off and running. Now it's kind of potentially evolving a little bit because there is the digital access work that the state is doing. Some of us are participating in a meeting, I think next week, to talk about that a little bit more. And that can be something that this particular committee, kind of is more engaged in from the work that happens with that digital access statewide effort that's happening. So just what do people think? What
And Amy Mitchell and Penny Everest had a huge part of that in Park County too. I think we had tried to do work sessions during our meeting, and that obviously didn't go well because we couldn't do a hybrid work session with people here and people online. I know the caregiver group met a couple times in person, but it was hard to keep momentum going. And I don't know what the other group's thoughts were or experience were, but we have so many new people. I think it would behoove us to regroup and go forward from where we are now with the new faces we have and see where everyone has landed and go forward from there. But I don't know what other people's thoughts are.
This is Kent. So a number of things. I don't know if it was 1 year or 2 years ago, but when I was still working here and on a couple of commission meetings and when the work groups were forming, I kind of inserted myself into the caregiver work group kind of a thing. And I remember at length discussions, and what I walked away from was that work group totally had no direction. It didn't know what to do, how to do it. There was no focus. And so some kind of input and direction to help the group focus, because ideally looking at it in terms of the other work groups, caregiver supports and services touch the other three in some way, shape, or form. Especially looking at promoting social engagement and inclusion. Most caregivers, when they become caregivers, they become socially isolated. And we live in a society where, unlike the other end of the spectrum, when you have children, it's easier you're encouraged to do social things, to be included, like mom groups and everything else. When it comes to the elderly and caregiving for an elderly, there's none of that exists. And so, based on that past experience and whatnot, yeah, I have interest in the caregiver supports and services, but that group's got to have some kind of focus other than, because I remember 2 years ago, it was like, well, let's do a caregiver event. And we ran into huge obstacles at figuring out what to do and how to do that. And then that's when the group just began to disintegrate. And we need to be much broader than doing an activity. It needs to be fitting along the lines of things that enhance and drive forward the legislative stuff that we've all been talking about for the last hour or so, and bring some focus to that. Maybe on a local level, I'm not sure how that would work, but that's my input.
Aaron, go ahead.
I would like to offer that maybe we look at structuring how the work groups will be operating at our next executive meeting. And we offer that structure and make sure that the people who are leading the work groups are in agreement and appoint them, or not appoint them, but kind of give them tasks and give them structure. That way we can, lead from there and everyone kind of has their marching orders. Does that sound like a good plan?
I think they need to come up. It needs to come from them. I don't think we task them with what we think. I think it needs to be.
But if we just, that could be part of what we come up with in the executive meeting. Is that this is what you're doing? These are the guardrails for your work. This is the reporting structure from your team. These are, how often we might recommend that you meet.
Sure. And I think it'd be nice for the groups to meet just to find out who they think the lead is going to be. But to give them those guidelines. And so when they do meet, they have some guidelines for the person who emerges as the leader. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, just so that the groups know what is expected of them. In a loose kind of democratic, we're all working on this together.
Sure.
Right, here are the guardrails for operating.
Well, and know too that executive committee meeting is open to anyone. So if you feel like you might want to be the lead and want to be a part of that executive committee, feel free to attend. And I don't know that we have a new time for that meeting just yet, or do we? Okay. We do. Oh, it is the first one. Oh, it didn't change. Or did it? It looks okay. All right. Okay.
I would like to chime in here. I would like to second what Kent is saying as far as needing a better direction. Because I was part of the caregiver conference idea. And there were some concerns, and we were following some guidelines I felt that were brought forward because I joined in November of 2023. These goals were brought forward. We did some work on them, and then now it just kind of, was that 2023 or 2024? 2024? Okay. Anyways, that was recently. And based on what I'm hearing from Jody from a legislative perspective and what we are experiencing here within the commission, I feel like we need more community outreach. We need a better understanding of where all the gaps are from the different areas and the different counties. And so maybe more than um, an executive committee direction, helping maybe the executive committee, Aaron can come up with something more of like goals and a more broad, like a more specific direction based on the legislative part, so that that ties better in with a commission's role and providing that information up the chain and things like that, rather than let's just throw another conference or let's just work on something related to transportation when there is a housing bill and things like that. So I think from my perspective, we need to hear more from the community at large of what is absolutely necessary. What are the resources we are specifically looking at losing the funding for, and then driving it that way. I would love to see more seniors in this actual room for conversations and learning more about our community. We have business owners who provide resources, training, advocacy. Why are they not here in this room or online? I think this commission could have tremendous power. We need a lot more people involved with this, and then we bring it up the chain of command from there. So from my perspective, the executive committee, if you can provide, here are the weaknesses, here's what we need, and here's how our commission can help fill in. And then we provide those work groups and go from that. But I feel like we need a little bit more information.
It's great. Great input. I like that a lot, especially tying it to the bills that matter. Kent?
Well, and the other facet, going back to what was mentioned, I can't remember what the discussion was, but it was talking about looking at a hybrid, but looking at more public and private funding. And based on the current political climate, that might not be a bad thing to begin to research in terms of how can we expand out in terms of more public and private funding, and begin to wrestle with that challenge as well. And what would that look like in all of these work group areas as well?
Just a question as a new person, do the groups have existing leads right now, or the goal was this, you regroup these groups to identify new leads for each of these committees? Like if we just joined a group.
It's really pretty open. I did send an email out to folks that kind of identified who had expressed interest in each of the groups. And I took the initiative to bold people's names as potential leads for the group. Of course, I hope everyone read that with a grain of salt, because I did say, this is just me saying this. So it does not mean that that is how things have to shake out at all. But it does kind of help in some ways to maybe just, again, put some of those guardrails in and little guidance, just to kind of get things moving along, that, yeah, maybe so-and-so would be the chair for the social engagement committee. And then once the folks meet, you can kind of discuss it amongst yourselves, where you want those things to go. But I do also agree wholeheartedly that I think we need to kind of decide a little bit more about what the work groups want to do. I think that it was a good exercise, even though I do think some people, are frustrated or whatever, but I still think it was a very good exercise last year for like the caregiving committee to really jump in with both feet and say, this is what we want to do. We think that this is a need in the community. We want to give this a shot. Lots of lessons learned there to say, let's switch gears and try something different. But again, we still don't really know what that something different looks like. But what I've kind of written down here is opportunities to hopefully gather more information from community people. Be thinking about that from the perspective of what are some of the legislative topics that are out there, and how can the commission and these different work groups maybe compile some type of information document to then share up the channels to the PPACG board, to the CCA. Because again, it's one thing for Steve and Phil to go attend a Colorado Center on Aging, kind of meeting, and to maybe say something from their own perspective. I'm Phil and this is what I think about such and such, or I'm Steve and this is what I think about such and such. It would be a completely different story if Steve and Phil are attending the Colorado Center on Aging and are saying, we're part of the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging. This is where the Commission on Aging is getting its information, and this is our stance on, such and such. And 2 years from now, maybe that's how this could look. So I do think that, hopefully the executive committee can take some of this information that's being shared here today and kind of come up with some direction and guardrails for the groups, and see where that kind of lands to.
I think that sounds, oh, sorry, Jody.
Go ahead.
I think that sounds like a great idea, Melissa. Like for the caregiver committee, I would be interested in what bills and legislation are needed, what resources are currently existing in the community, and where those gaps kind of lie. And then from there, do we need focus groups? Do we need to go knock on some doors? What can we do as a commission versus just another organization to help with these topics? I think they're very prevalent and they're very important topics, and sounds like funding is a big concern this year.
Yeah, thank you. Funding unfortunately resides in my office, and that's the world I live in. So thank you for that, for recognizing that, Connie. But I did want to throw out some of what you're talking about as far as determining priorities and gaps and things like that. I'll refer back to the CASOA. CASOA is a community assessment survey for older adults. If you don't have a copy of our 4-year plan, and some of you newer members may not, I have them in my office. Did you get that already to them? Excellent. Do you have a copy of the?
So I did not give you
200?
guys a complete 4-year
Oh.
plan, but what they did get is they got the CASOA
This
findings
portion? Okay.
summarized in their
Okay.
orientation
Okay,
packet.
Cool. Well, you are welcome to a bound copy of all 208 pages. But I do have them right here in my office. But the reason I bring that up is, the fact, first of all, that is a 4-year plan. It's a strategic plan. It's what drives a lot of the decision making, funding priorities, and that kind of thing with the Area Agency on Aging. I would say, even though that is now, a hair over 2 years old when that was approved by the state, and it's what we use, it's already, somebody was asking, well, when does that start again? I did the math. I'm like, oh, that's the end of this year. We'll be really starting to plan, because it's about a 15-month process. It's quite an intensive process to put together each of these 4-year plans. Part of this is part of our federal mandate, is to go out to the community and get that input. I wanted to share that because the federal act, that Older Americans Act, requires 3 community community events, and we hosted 32. And so I would say that this really gives a really strong, comprehensive look at the needs and the gaps and what each individual community and those individuals who participated really have the opportunity to put in their priorities and what they're faced with in aging process in their specific community. But I wanted to highlight, first of all, Connie, something that you mentioned was, why don't we have more seniors in this room? And I echo that 100%. I would love to see this room full, where you could have listening sessions and actually make that a part of this agenda. And we have the public comments; it's part of what we do. But perhaps make that broader and put the word out to that. So we do share this information. It is a public meeting. You can see people, or a few people online, who are not direct members of the commission, but I think there's certainly room to grow, especially as the committees are getting revisited and resorted. One of the reasons that we really stepped out to work with the city of Colorado Springs to bring on the Commission on Aging as a regional organization instead of just a city organization was the opportunity for more people to be engaged. And it also, the goal was really to allow people to have that opportunity from a policy perspective, a legislative, understand and hear and be engaged in the process. Some of you are familiar with our Regional Advisory Council. Their role is really to focus more on the services and the funding distribution and be part of that community advisory portion of what we do. But we had people who would join or be interested in joining who say, I want to go up to the Capitol and make my voice heard. Well, that's not the role of the Regional Advisory Council. In fact, that's a no-no. Not allowed to lobby as the Regional Advisory Council. And so to hear some of this feedback today, it really warms my heart, because a lot of what you all have shared is one of the big reasons we reached out to the city several years ago to say, how can we better partner and coordinate what we do in a policy and legislative manner on behalf of the older adults of the region, not just the city. And so I really like where you're going with this, and I think there's a lot of opportunity here. So thank you.
Well, and I've said it before, I think for us to get to the seniors, we need to go to the seniors. So I think even if we don't do it every meeting, but to have a meeting out east, wherever that could be, where we could have a room full of seniors, to go up to Cripple Creek and have a meeting where there are seniors that would attend. I don't think we're going to get them here. I think we need to go to where they are, or see if Silver Key will do a roundup, pick up and bring them here, that type of thing. But I think we need to make it happen for them.
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna just come on their own.
Generally speaking, we do have the capacity, depending on staff schedules and that kind of thing and responsibilities, we do have the capacity to go out. Regional Advisory Council is scheduled to do, what are we doing, 3 or 4 meetings out this year as part of their outreach. And so I think that can be part of the discussion of the executive committee. And, we've got some coordinating to do, along with locations and staff time for managing, because everything we do has to have that public component. But if you all are willing to do that, we can certainly make that, we can figure out how to make that happen. So.
Would it also be possible with Erin and her mission of recruitment, as you're looking in these areas for people to join, hosting that virtual spot? So if you find someone for Cripple Creek, host somewhere at a location where seniors could get to, since we're still trying to group everybody together, and then have a virtual space in. So not everybody has to travel all the time, and everyone still has an opportunity to attend every meeting. I mean, the world can be a small place when we have that in a component. And then we're not spreading everyone so thin, but maybe bringing more people together too.
Right. That's kind of what I was referring to. We have the capacity not just to physically move a meeting to another location, but to make it virtual so that even if you're even if you can't travel to Cripple Creek because of other job or personal responsibilities, you'd still be able to engage with the people in Cripple Creek during a live Cripple Creek meeting. So yes, we do have that capacity. Like I said, it's just a matter of scheduling it and making it happen with staff support. So that's always part of the equation, of course.
All right, any other comments about work group planning?
So this is Melissa again. I think I want to kind of encourage, I don't know if anyone on the Commission on Aging attends any of the Senior Resource Council meetings on a regular basis, but I'm wondering if there's a way to, when you talked about businesses in the room, and I think about who shows up, Senior Resource Council tends to have a lot of businesses show up to their meetings. And so maybe if there's a possibility that someone from the Commission on Aging would want to attend one or two of their meetings on a more regular basis. I have attended their meetings in the past. But again, I think, to be able to maybe make an announcement, but I know sometimes they don't always allow announcements to be made at those meetings. I don't know. It just seems like
Who's
there
a
should
member?
be something.
Do we have members of Senior Resource Council? Bill? Kent? Okay, so
Just be thinking about that a little bit more, maybe, and a way to communicate the Commission on Aging message and this will look a little bit different maybe once the work groups have kind of some more marching orders, because then that might be the conversation that gets shared at the Senior Resource Council, from wanting to gather information that way. I will also, at the executive committee meeting, bring up the tool that Dayton had created about where do we get our information. Because I think that's also just a really important, kind of thing to think about too, when we're communicating information. And I don't know, Dayton, you've been awfully quiet. You probably haven't even been here at the meeting. You make it look like you're there.
ouch.
I'm really just kidding. But I don't know. So Dayton, if you are there and if you want to make any comments about the, tool that you worked hard on and this idea of where do we get our information, if you wanted to make any comments about that. There he is.
Hi. Yeah, no, Melissa, I appreciate you giving it up. It was all really with the thought of transparency at the end of the day. Just being a public facing commission and being really confident in the information that we're sharing and where we're getting our information, I think is an important piece, and having a repository with credible resources of where we're pulling our data from, where we're pulling our anecdotes from, and those types of things from reputable resources, I think only builds our credibility as a group. So as we look to be either advocates or as we have our conversations, we're doing it intelligently and we're doing it with the same information in front of us. So the impetus of having that repository in front of us was really just credibility and transparency. And there are just such wonderful resources from the CASOA to a lot of the work that's being done by Next 50 and others that are putting some amazing reports that could help us just be informed as we look to be kind of voices of older adults, both in our community and across the state. So thanks, Melissa.
Well,
and for the
back
record,
to-
I am sitting in on the meeting and listening.
I'm kidding. I am kidding.
Thanks, Dayton. Just back to the Senior Resource Council quickly. They have revisited senior talk. And so that might be a good avenue for us to be on that podcast at some point and to get our message across to let people know what the commission is up to.
Thank you. I'm working on some of that. I'm in conversations with them about several topics, so
Okay,
I'll add
great.
that to the mix. Thank you.
Yep.
And Jody, Melissa over here. I feel like you mentioned that we have a time slot with the PPACG board to get in front of them again. Do you have that handy in front of you? Otherwise, I'll be digging that up again. I feel like you commented about that at some point.
I do. We have it on the schedule right now for the April 9th PPACG board meeting as an information item. So that's typically about 10 minutes, 5 slides, that kind of thing. And so be thinking about that. If that date is a little soft, it just kind of depends on other topics that have to be approved or have to be reviewed as part of the PPACG requirements. But right now I have you on the schedule for Wednesday morning, April 9th. A board meeting begins at 9 a.m. here in this room. So if the executive committee wants to start planning that, work with Melissa on that to make sure we get everything prepared in time. The deadline for materials and confirming on the agenda is about 2 weeks out from that. And so if it's okay if this is too soon, but I selected the first available slot. So there's nothing specific to that timing, but just first available. So if we need to push that off, we certainly can to give you time for preparation.
Are there any other member entity announcements? Thanks for bringing that up and getting me back on it. Anybody have anything to offer?
Madam Chair, Dayton Romero has his hand raised.
Yes, Dayton. He's alive.
Melissa opened the seal, so now I'm gonna talk too much now. No, Paul, I was just gonna raise my hand and say as that date approaches to present to the board, whatever hand I could lend to help create PowerPoints or be there kind of as representation or a speaker, happy to help on that front.
I appreciate that, Dayton, because we did that together last time and I think it went fairly well. I appreciate your offer.
So just so you have a target date, and Jared, if you don't mind double checking this, we'd have to have all materials in hand by March 27th. Excuse me, March 28th. Does that sound right? Yep, March 28th. So that would be your goal. And like I said, we can adjust that if you need a little more time.
Thanks, Jody. All right. Anything else for the good of the commission? We have the meeting schedule. The executive meeting is now at 9 o'clock and on the first Wednesday instead of 8 o'clock. And items for our next meeting. What do we have for our next meeting? We'll have some guidelines for or some plan strategies for our working groups. We'll have hopefully an orientation session set up for Kent and whoever else wants to attend, Connie. And if anyone wants to go again to hear the news about what we do, please join. We'll set that before our next meeting. And I think that will be it.
And I just a quick shout out before we close up here today.
Yes.
So I saw and I missed it this morning, but and there's a news reporter at NPR who is doing a series about aging matters in Colorado. Her name is, it's going to come to me, Sandra Thomas Whitfield, I'm pretty sure is her name. And Dayton, you can correct me if that's not right, but Dayton was on NPR, I think it was this morning, talking to Chandra Thomas Whitfield about the work that he does at the Senior Planet Center in Denver. And I'm really impressed with the work that Chandra is doing for NPR. She is passionate about aging in Colorado and elevating the important work that's happening in communities. So I'm really excited that Dayton was invited to be a part of that. And I'm sure that it will be available online on NPR's website. I encourage everybody to go and listen and learn about not only what Chandra's bringing together for the community, but what Dayton's doing in Denver. So good work, Dayton.
Thanks for that, Erin. And if you happen on the link before we get to it, please share it out to the group. I appreciate that. Good job, Dayton.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right.
There's an article and kind of like a podcast formatted interview. So if you're interested in checking it out, yeah, feel free to have a quick listen. Thanks.
Great. All right, great. If there is no other comments or input, we will adjourn. Thank you for being here.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie, thanks for being in the room.